Can you tell us why you wanting to get involved in the issue?
The reason why I am so passionate about dyslexia is because of being a dyslexic person myself.
Her father is Prince Andrew, the most disgraced member of the British royal family in modern history. Her mother is Sarah Ferguson, a woman the tabloids spent 3 decades tearing apart. Princess Beatrice did not choose her parents. She did not choose her bloodline, but the public decided long ago that the sins of the father would be visited upon the daughter. And the real reasons people cannot stand Beatrice reveal far more about us than they do about her. Piers Morgan. If we are going to compile a list of the most unpredictable and most contradictory relationships in British public life, Piers Morgan and Princess Beatrice would absolutely make the cut. This is not a simple story of one person disliking another. It is messier than that, more complicated than that, and honestly, far more interesting. And the beginning of this story is surprisingly warm. Piers Morgan has known Princess Beatrice and her sister Eugenie for a long time. In a column he wrote for the Mail on Sunday in 2021, he described both sisters as incredibly nice, polite, and genuinely good fun to be around. He recalled visiting them at a social gathering in Notting Hill and spoke admiringly about how they had kept their composure through years of devastating scrutiny caused by their father, Prince Andrew, and his catastrophic association with the convicted offender Jeffrey Epstein. So far, so surprisingly warm from a man not exactly famous for his warmth. But then the COVID-19 pandemic happened, and things took a very sharp and very public turn. In the middle of the national lockdown, when millions of British people were confined to their homes, when funerals were cancelled and people were watching their parents die on video calls because hospitals would not allow visitors, Princess Beatrice was photographed on a luxury vacation in Ibiza with her then-boyfriend, Edoardo Mapelli Mozzi. The images went everywhere within hours. Piers Morgan did not hold back. He called her on live television completely insane. He said exactly this: "What kind of person thinks it is remotely acceptable to jet off on a luxury holiday while the rest of the country is stuck at home?" He accused her of living in a different world, entirely detached from reality, and of flaunting her privilege during a time of national crisis. He pointed out that ordinary people were missing weddings, missing funerals, and missing the final moments with their dying loved ones, while Beatrice was on a sun lounger in Ibiza, as if none of it mattered. The British public responded the way it often does when Piers says something people secretly agree with. The story exploded, comments sections filled with thousands expressing identical fury, and Beatrice found herself at the center of a firestorm she had not been remotely prepared for. But here is where the story gets genuinely fascinating, because in 2023, the plot twisted in a way nobody saw coming. Photographs emerged of Beatrice and Eugenie leaving a Notting Hill pub after a long and cheerful lunch with none other than Piers Morgan himself, alongside singer James Blunt. The pictures showed the group laughing and looking completely at ease with each other. The reaction from supporters of Harry and Meghan was volcanic. Royal commentator Dr. Sholomos Shogbamimu posted publicly that she could not believe Beatrice was hanging out with Piers Morgan after everything he had put Harry and Meghan through. Sources close to Harry reportedly told The Sun that a very dim view was taken of this outing. Morgan himself later claimed on Piers Morgan Uncensored in 2025 that this lunch was the direct reason Harry had cut off Princess Eugenie entirely, one of the most dramatic rifts inside the royal inner circle in recent years. Their relationship is messy, completely contradictory, and genuinely one of the most fascinating tensions in British royal life. They have publicly attacked each other and publicly socialized together. They keep causing chaos simply by appearing in the same photograph. It perfectly encapsulates the kind of complicated and exhausting conflict that seems to follow Princess Beatrice absolutely everywhere she goes. Coming up next, we have Graham Smith. Not every conflict is personal. Sometimes it is about something far more fundamental and ideologically charged than a single incident. And that is exactly the case with Graham Smith. Graham Smith is the Chief Executive Officer of Republic, the United Kingdom's leading organization dedicated to abolishing the British monarchy and replacing it with an elected head of state. When it comes to Princess Beatrice specifically, his argument is not that she is a bad or malicious person. His argument is that she is the perfect living symbol of everything that is broken about the system she was born into. His central criticism is one that ordinary people can easily feel the full force of. She holds a princess title. She benefits from royal privileges. She moves through the world with doors that title opens for her, and she does all of this without performing any formal royal duties whatsoever. She is not a working royal. She carries out no official engagements on behalf of the crown. And yet, she keeps the title, keeps the access, and keeps the extraordinary social and professional advantages that come permanently attached to being a princess. For Graham Smith, this is not simply unfair. It is absurd. He told The Sun that at a time of serious economic uncertainty, the very last thing the British public needed was members of the royal family demanding more taxpayer money and more accommodation. When reports circulated that Prince Andrew was actively pushing for Beatrice and Eugenie to be made full working royals with all the financial support that would bring, the palace refused. Smith said the palace made the right call, but for entirely the wrong reasons, because the whole institution was built on exactly the same broken logic regardless. The security costs have been a serious flashpoint in their own right. During Beatrice's gap year, the cost of her taxpayer-funded police protection ran to over £100,000. That single figure caused a genuine public outcry. Reports at the time suggested that even then, Prince Charles pushed back, considering the expense completely excessive for someone performing absolutely no official duties. British taxpayers were paying over £100,000 to protect someone on a gap year simply because of the family she was born into. For Graham Smith, that single fact is all the evidence anyone needs. When King Charles later signaled that Beatrice and Eugenie would not be accommodated in royal residences and would need to support themselves financially, Smith saw it as a quiet acknowledgement of everything Republic had been arguing for years. But he was quick to add that it did not go nearly far enough, because as long as Beatrice holds that princess title and uses it to access opportunities that no ordinary person could ever reach, the fundamental problem remains exactly where it has always been. Moving forward, we have Ingrid Seward. Some critics come at Princess Beatrice with fury. Some come with ideology. But Ingrid Seward comes at her with something arguably more damaging than either: quiet, measured, and thoroughly expert disappointment. And when someone of Ingrid Seward's standing in the royal world is disappointed in you, it tends to stick in ways that a fiery tabloid headline simply does not. Ingrid Seward has been one of Britain's most respected royal biographers and commentators for decades, serving as the editor of Majesty magazine and writing extensively about the royal family across multiple books. She possesses the kind of deep insider knowledge and long historical perspective that most commentators can only dream of. So when she started publicly raising serious concerns about Princess Beatrice's judgment, the royal world paid very close attention. Her first major criticism centers on Beatrice's past social connections.
Maxwell stood silently as the judge handed down a sentence of 20 years.
Ghislaine Maxwell just sentenced to 20 years in prison. She was found guilty back in December of helping Jeffrey Epstein abuse underage girls.
To Ghislaine Maxwell, the British socialite who was convicted in 2021 and sentenced to 20 years in federal prison for her central role in Jeffrey Epstein's international sex trafficking network. Beatrice, through the world her father had built around her, attended events alongside Maxwell before the full and horrifying scale of Maxwell's crimes had been publicly exposed. Ingrid acknowledged the genuine complexities of that situation. These were events that took place before Maxwell's conviction, in social environments where the complete truth had not yet come to light. But understanding the context does not make the association any less damaging to Beatrice's reputation. Ingrid argued that any perceived closeness to a figure like Maxwell, regardless of timing, automatically invites intense and sustained scrutiny from a public that holds royal family members to a significantly higher standard. And that scrutiny becomes even more intense when the person in question is directly connected to Beatrice's own father's catastrophic downfall. Ingrid also turned her critical eye to Beatrice's professional decisions, specifically her choice to take a corporate role at Affinity, a technology company specializing in artificial intelligence. The problem, according to Ingrid's assessment, is what the decision communicates about Beatrice's understanding of her own position. The British public has a fairly simple expectation of anyone holding a royal title. Either commit fully to royal duties and serve the public in that official capacity, or step back completely from the royal world and build a private life like any other citizen. What people find deeply uncomfortable is someone using a royal title to open professional doors that no ordinary applicant could ever walk through, while simultaneously presenting themselves as just a regular person with a regular career. Ingrid described the corporate job as a clear misstep that further complicated an already troubled public image. For a woman with the resources, the platform, and the connections to define herself clearly and positively in the public eye, Beatrice keeps making choices that muddy the waters further rather than clearing them. In Ingrid Seward's expert assessment, that is a persistent pattern of poor judgment that the princess urgently needs to address. Shifting our focus now, we turn to another journalist, Katie Nicholl. If you follow royal news with any regularity, you will know Katie Nicholl's name. She is a contributing editor at Vanity Fair and one of the most well-connected royal correspondents working in British media today. When Katie Nicholl talks about a royal, she is drawing on real information from real sources inside the royal household. Her central problem with Princess Beatrice is not personal animosity. It is what she sees as a persistent, frustrating, and entirely avoidable failure. The failure to clearly define who she is and what she stands for. Consider the royal landscape directly around Beatrice. Prince William methodically built himself into the future king, a serious public figure with clear causes and a sharply defined purpose. Prince Harry threw himself into genuinely impressive charitable work, built the Invictus Games from the ground up, and gave wounded veterans around the world something truly extraordinary. Even Princess Anne, not exactly famous for warmth in front of cameras, has built an undeniable reputation as the hardest-working royal in the entire family, turning up to hundreds of official engagements every year without complaint or fanfare. And then there is Beatrice. She has good intentions, absolutely. She is a patron of the Teenage Cancer Trust. She advocates with genuine feeling for Made by Dyslexia, a cause close to her heart because she was herself diagnosed with dyslexia as a child. She has supported Street Child and other charitable organizations over the years. But in Katie Nicholl's view, this collection of good intentions has never come together into anything the British public can clearly see, clearly understand, and genuinely respect. There is no signature cause. There is no defining campaign. There is no moment in her public life where you can point and say without hesitation, that is what Princess Beatrice stands for. The absence of that clarity creates an impression, fair or not, that Beatrice enjoys being a princess without being fully committed to what being a princess actually requires in return. Katie has pointed out repeatedly that this persistent ambiguity does not just damage Beatrice individually. It feeds directly into the broader public frustration about the royal family's complicated and deeply uncomfortable relationship with privilege and responsibility. The story took an interesting turn in 2024 when both King Charles and Princess Catherine stepped back from public duties due to serious health challenges, leaving the working royal rota dangerously thin. Reports emerged that Beatrice and Eugenie were very upset they had not been called upon to step in and help. Friends of the sisters told the Daily Beast they had made it clear they genuinely wanted to be of service to the crown and the country during this difficult period. And yet, the palace did not call. For Katie Nicholl, it comes back to the same fundamental issue. Beatrice has not done the sustained groundwork to make herself indispensable. And until she does that work, she will remain permanently on the sidelines of her own story. Up next, we have a royal biographer who takes things even further. Angela Levin. Angela Levin is a royal biographer who does not pull her punches for anyone. Best known for her authorized biography of Prince Harry, which was based on extensive personal interviews with the Duke himself, she has built a strong reputation for delivering honest and unflinching assessments of royal behavior. And when it comes to Princess Beatrice's conduct during the COVID-19 pandemic, Angela Levin has been particularly direct and particularly unsparing. To understand why Beatrice's pandemic behavior caused such enormous and lasting damage to her reputation, you need to understand what ordinary British people were going through at the time. People were not allowed to visit their own parents in care homes. Children could not physically see their grandparents for months. Funerals were restricted to a tiny handful of people, and many grieving families watched their loved ones be buried via a phone screen because they were simply not permitted to be in the room. Weddings were cancelled across the entire country. The government's message was repeated endlessly through every possible channel. Stay home, protect the NHS, and save lives. So when it emerged that Beatrice had gone ahead with a private wedding to Edoardo Mapelli Mozzi on the 17th of July 2020 at the Royal Chapel of All Saints in Windsor Great Park, the public reaction was entirely predictable. To be fair, she had originally planned a large formal wedding in May 2020 at St. James's Palace in London, which would have been the first major royal wedding in London since William and Kate's in 2011. The pandemic forced the complete cancellation of those plans. What she chose to do instead was have a small, intimate ceremony with a very limited guest list, with Queen Elizabeth and Prince Philip among the very few present. Angela Levin acknowledged that Beatrice had scaled back her plans dramatically, but she argued firmly that the decision to go ahead at all, under those specific circumstances, demonstrated a profound lack of awareness about what ordinary British people were living through at that precise moment. While Beatrice was exchanging vows in a royal chapel, British families across the country were being turned away from their dying relatives in hospital corridors. While she was celebrating in Windsor, people everywhere were grieving alone and marking the most important moments of their lives in complete silence. The contrast was jarring in the extreme, and according to Angela Levin, it fostered a deep and lasting resentment toward Beatrice that has never fully gone away. Then came the gathering. Beyond the wedding itself, Beatrice was also linked to a private social event during the lockdown period, an incident that became tangled up in the wider Partygate scandal that eventually brought down Boris Johnson's government and resulted in police fines being issued to Downing Street staff. For the British public, Partygate was a crushing confirmation of their darkest suspicion: one set of rules for the powerful and an entirely different set of rules for everyone else. Beatrice's name being associated with that period, even tangentially, was enough to cement the narrative around her in the public mind. Social media exploded with criticism, and comments poured in describing her behavior as selfish and emblematic of everything wrong with how the privileged experience national emergencies. Angela Levin concluded that this period represented the single biggest self-inflicted wound to Beatrice's public image in her entire royal life. Moving forward, we have Andrew Lowney. We have talked about critics, commentators, journalists, and campaigners, but Andrew Lowney occupies a completely different category from every single one of them. Because Andrew Lowney did not simply criticize Princess Beatrice or express disappointment in her choices, he spent 4 full years researching and writing a biography that placed her at the very heart of one of the most explosive, most disturbing, and most consequential royal stories ever committed to print.
I spent 4 years researching this book, but I mean, even so, it's only the testimony of the people I found, and I only had 300 people out of 3,000 people that I identified and approached. And we have clearly some legal depositions, we have some cuts.
Andrew Lowney is a respected British royal historian who published his most controversial work in 2025, a book entitled The Rise and Fall of the House of York. The biography focuses primarily on Prince Andrew and his catastrophic downfall in connection with the Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell scandal. But because Beatrice is Prince Andrew's daughter and grew up in his world, moving through his social circles throughout her entire childhood and young adult life, she appears throughout the book in ways that are deeply uncomfortable and genuinely shocking to read. One of the most disturbing revelations in the entire biography is the confirmation that Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell attended a masked ball at Windsor Castle that was held as part of the celebrations for Princess Beatrice's 18th birthday in 2006. Let that sit with you for a moment. A convicted offender and his accomplice were welcomed as guests at a birthday party for a member of the British royal family inside Windsor Castle itself. The timeline makes it even more chilling. This party took place 2 months after a United States arrest warrant had already been formally issued against Epstein for the sexual assault of a minor. Epstein was arrested in the United States just 8 days after attending the Windsor event and leaving British soil. The question of who knew what and precisely when they knew it hangs over that chapter of the biography like an enormous and unresolvable thundercloud. Beatrice was 18 years old at the time of the party. She was a young woman attending her own birthday celebration. The suggestion is absolutely not that she was complicit in anything Epstein or Maxwell had done, but the inescapable fact that the world her father had constructed around her included these figures, who were at that very moment already under active investigation for crimes against children, is genuinely devastating material to encounter. Loney's research also uncovered deeply uncomfortable details connected to Beatrice's 21st birthday celebrations in 2009. A Libyan businessman named Tarek Kaitouni attended the event and reportedly boasted to associates that he was able to commercially influence Prince Andrew. Loney further reported that Kaitouni presented Princess Beatrice with an 18,000-pound diamond necklace as a birthday gift. The palace denied all knowledge of any such gift. But perhaps the most quietly heartbreaking detail in the entire biography has nothing to do with Epstein or Maxwell or Libyan businessmen. It is a small and devastatingly human detail about a Disneyland trip in 2001. According to Loney's research, Prince Andrew skipped Princess Eugenie's 11th birthday party at Disneyland Paris, choosing instead to extend his stay at Jeffrey Epstein's Palm Beach estate after spending time in New York with Ghislaine Maxwell. Photographs from that day show Beatrice and Eugenie smiling for cameras alongside their mother, Sarah Ferguson, without their father anywhere in sight. He had chosen to remain with a convicted offender rather than attend his own daughter's 11th birthday at Disneyland. The image of those two young girls smiling without any idea of where their father was or who he was spending his time with is one of the most haunting moments in Loney's entire account. For Princess Beatrice, this biography is not simply a book about her father. It is a forensic and deeply unsettling record of the world she was born into, and the consequences of that world are ones she will be living with for the rest of her life. Next is Sam McAllister. We have saved the most extraordinary story for last, because the story of Sam McAllister and Princess Beatrice is unlike anything else on this list. It is not a story of criticism or ideology or public disappointment in poor choices. It is a story of one of the most surreal, most emotionally charged, and most professionally bizarre encounters in the entire history of modern royal life. Sam McAllister is a former BBC Newsnight producer who spent over a year working to secure what eventually became the most watched and most talked about royal interview of the century. Prince Andrew's sit-down with journalist Emily Maitlis, broadcast in November 2019, in which he was questioned directly about his friendship with Jeffrey Epstein, his association with Ghislaine Maxwell, and the allegations made against him by Virginia Roberts Giuffre, who claimed he had abused her on multiple occasions when she was just 17 years old.
She claimed it was taken prior to one of 3 times she was forced to have with the king's brother. They were encounters he denies took place, but which have led to his public downfall.
McAllister documented her extraordinary experience in her memoir published in 2022 called Scoops, behind the scenes of the BBC's most shocking interviews. The book was later adapted into a Netflix film simply called Scoop, released in 2024, with Billie Piper playing McAllister in the lead role. The film became a massive global hit and brought the complete story to an audience of millions who had not previously known all the details. And right at the very center of that story, in a way that almost nobody outside the immediate parties knew about at the time, is Princess Beatrice. In November 2019, McAllister arrived at Buckingham Palace for what was supposed to be a final negotiating meeting with Prince Andrew and his Chief of Staff, Amanda Thirsk. She was there to finalize the terms of the interview and manage the last remaining logistics before cameras rolled. The topic under discussion was whether Prince Andrew would publicly address the allegation that he had abused a 17-year-old girl. The atmosphere was tense, and the stakes were as high as they could possibly be. And then, around the corner, came Princess Beatrice. McAllister later recalled that moment with barely concealed professional disbelief. She had assumed whoever walked through that door was going to be a lawyer, which would have made complete sense given the enormous legal sensitivity of everything they were about to discuss. Instead, it was Prince Andrew's daughter, his 20-year-old daughter, sitting down at a table where the subject of conversation was sexual abuse allegations against her own father. McAllister described it publicly as really quite the curveball of curveballs. She said that nothing in her professional life had prepared her for conducting a delicate and legally fraught negotiation about sexual offenses against a minor, while the accused man's own daughter was sitting directly across from her, taking notes in a notebook. According to McAllister's detailed account, Beatrice was polite and composed throughout the meeting. She asked questions that McAllister described as very sensible, exactly the kind of questions a daughter asks when she is desperately trying to understand what her father is about to walk into, and to protect him from making an already devastating situation even worse. But the emotional undercurrent in that room must have been almost impossible to sit inside. Beatrice was not a neutral professional at that table. She was a daughter facing a television producer who was about to film her father answering the most serious and most damaging questions ever directed at a senior royal. Emily Maitlis herself, the journalist who conducted the actual interview, later reflected on Beatrice's involvement in the Channel 4 documentary, Andrew, the Problem Prince. Maitlis speculated openly about why Prince Andrew had agreed to do the interview at all, given how obvious the risks were. One of her theories was that Andrew may have agreed partly because he genuinely wanted to make things better for his daughters, to clear the air publicly, to give Beatrice and Eugenie something concrete they could point to and say, "Our father went out there and faced it." Maitlis was careful to say she did not know if that was true, but it had genuinely crossed her mind more than once. The interview was, of course, an absolute disaster. It became one of the most widely mocked and most devastatingly damaging television appearances in the history of British broadcasting. Prince Andrew's claim that he could not have been with Virginia Roberts Giuffre on the alleged night because he had been at a Pizza Express in Woking became an instant international punchline. His assertion that he did not sweat due to a medical condition related to the Falklands War became one of the most scrutinized statements ever delivered in a television interview anywhere in the world. The fallout was total. Prince Andrew stepped back from all public duties. His military titles were formally stripped. He lost every royal patronage. He faced a civil lawsuit in the United States, which was eventually settled out of court. In the months that followed, royal watchers continued to debate Beatrice's presence in that room, with many questioning what she knew and how much influence she truly had. The moment remained one of the most quietly revealing episodes in the entire saga. And Princess Beatrice was present in that Buckingham Palace meeting room on the very day the wheels were set in motion for all of it. The Netflix film Scoop brought Beatrice's role in the negotiations to a global audience who had never known the full story, making her involvement visible to millions around the world. She did not ask for any of what followed. She did not cause the Epstein scandal. She was a daughter desperately trying to support her father through the worst period of his life. But the unavoidable consequence of being Prince Andrew's daughter is that these events and these extraordinary moments of private family drama are now permanently part of her public story, whether she wants them to be or not. 7 real documented conflicts involving Princess Beatrice have certainly kept her name in the spotlight. Whether you feel sympathy for her, frustration with her choices, or a mix of both, share your thoughts in the comments and tell us which story surprised you the most. And don't forget to click on the cards on screen for more interesting videos.